Okay, so you landed on this video. You must be thinking about becoming a bookkeeper. You guys, I thought, what better video to make specifically for you than some of the basics of bookkeeping? You can search for hours for a video to tell you how to become a bookkeeper. How much money are you gonna make? What does it mean to be a bookkeeper? But you need a short, sweet, and to the point video to teach you about some of the basics of bookkeeping. This is my channel, Realistic Bookkeeping. My name is Rachel Brown. I am gonna make a video dedicated to the basics of bookkeeping, including who can bookkeep, what does it mean to be a bookkeeper, how long could it take for you to start your bookkeeping business, and what do bookkeepers do? If you stay until the end, I'm gonna run through some key terminology that's gonna be really helpful as you start to decide whether bookkeeping is right for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first question I'm gonna answer is who can be a bookkeeper? This is a really, really simple answer. Anyone. Anyone can become a bookkeeper. Now you might think, I'm trying to sell you on some idea, so I wanna tell you that you can be a bookkeeper, but really you can. We're gonna talk a little bit more about the education piece of this, but it does not take a special person to bookkeep. There are some skills that are important and some just personal traits that you're gonna wanna consider when becoming a bookkeeper. First of all, you are gonna have to communicate with clients in order to become a bookkeeper. So you're gonna wanna have to talk to people. The second thing is you're probably gonna need to have some computer skills. The reason that computer skills are important is because bookkeeping has changed a lot from the way that it started and began to what it is now. And a lot of businesses are now interested, even if they don't currently have a business or a bookkeeping system that's online, they might want that. And so you're gonna need to know some basic computer skills in order to become a bookkeeper. It doesn't mean that you have to be a pro in Excel or Google Sheets, but you might have to start to learn things like those platforms or programs like QuickBooks or Xero. As far as the certifications and education are concerned with bookkeeping, there are lots of things that you can find on the internet about how to become certified to be a bookkeeper. But there's not one size fits all course that you can go to, or at least not right now. At the moment that I'm making this video, there are some big bookkeeping courses that are well known. One of the biggest ones is called Bookkeeper Launch, which is a pretty pricey course, but does offer a well-rounded program and how to start your bookkeeping business. There are other certificate programs that you can go through. There are even some good YouTubers that have some courses of their own. But you don't need to go back to your local community college or a four-year university in order to become a bookkeeper. You don't need a bachelor's degree or a degree in accounting. You don't have to be a CPA in order to become a bookkeeper. So who can bookkeep? Anyone. When can you become a bookkeeper? The answer to this is pretty simple. You can start whenever you want, and you can put as much time or as little time and effort into starting your bookkeeping business. It's the great thing about becoming a bookkeeper that you can put in whatever effort that you want, and your effort is going to directly correlate to how many clients you get as a bookkeeper and how successful you are. For me right now, I'm doing this part-time, so I probably spend about 3 to 4 hours bookkeeping right now, but I choose that time. If I wanted to spend more time, I would get more clients. And so this, when you can start bookkeeping and how much time it's gonna take into your life, is really a choice that's up to you. Where can you do bookkeeping? This is a good question. Honestly, you can just do bookkeeping for a local CPA. You could go to a tax expert and see if they wanted you to hire you to do some of their bookkeeping tasks. And this is a good way to get your feet wet in bookkeeping without becoming an entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is starting your own business from the ground up is difficult in and of itself. So when you're starting your own bookkeeping business and you're also learning bookkeeping, sometimes that can be too much for someone. So you're gonna need to kind of reflect on yourself and decide, do you wanna learn the skills first, or do you wanna learn the skills as you grow the business on your own? The good thing about growing your business on your own is that you make the terms, right? That goes back to the last one. So you can start whenever and you can do it wherever. You could do bookkeeping locally for some of your local businesses. You could kind of reach out in like a face-to-face type of opportunity, or you could do bookkeeping virtually. There are a lot of platforms where you can get jobs virtually doing bookkeeping from anywhere in the world. You'll see a lot of places that try to sell you on this idea, but it is really possible. You can bookkeep and not be face-to-face with your client. So now a really good question. How much are you gonna make as a bookkeeper? This is one that varies entirely. You are going to see a lot of information the more that you delve into the bookkeeping realm on the internet stating that you can make $65 an hour. And while I'm certainly not here to tell you that that's false, I'm telling you that wasn't my reality. I have lots of videos about my journey from the very beginning of my bookkeeping business till now, where I am not even currently making $65 an hour. I would say that it's more realistic for you to give yourself a range between $30 to $50 an hour if you've never been a bookkeeper before. Now, if you already have these skills of being a bookkeeper, then maybe you can charge between $50 and $65 an hour. I just want to give you a realistic perspective that might not be where you start. The other thing to say about this is that that's looking at an hourly rate, but quite often as a bookkeeper, bookkeepers are going to charge a monthly rate or a monthly fee for their clients and for their bookkeeping clients. So those rates are going to differ widely. So you might charge your smallest client $250 a month for a basic bookkeeping package versus a large company that you might charge $1,000 a month to do their bookkeeping tasks. This is really up to you and up to you selling yourself. I will make a side note here. It is very easy to undersell yourself, especially if you're becoming an entrepreneur at the same time as you're becoming a bookkeeper, because you're going to constantly be questioning yourself in your business in general, as well as your talents as a bookkeeper. So just remember not to undersell yourself and that you really set this price. One of the biggest things now is, how do you start bookkeeping? Well, you can start with a course. You can start by putting yourself out there and saying that you're going to start this. Or you can go through and watch my experience. I have a playlist dedicated to week by week what it took for me to begin my business and where I am now with a couple of clients and what I did and what steps I took in order to become a bookkeeper. Because this part of the video now is going to go through some basic terminology. And I'm also going to talk about a little bit of what a bookkeeper really does. So let's start with that. Essentially, what a bookkeeper does is a bookkeeper is hired for a business in order to track their expenses and their financial transactions. This is important, obviously, for a business to know what they're spending, how much they're spending, what they're spending it on, what customers pay them the most, who do they owe as a business, what bills do they have that need to be paid, and what in the end have they really made. So a bookkeeper is going to help them organize all of those transactions in order for them to have a clear financial picture of their business. Some of the terms that you're going to need to know are expense categories, right? So there are lots of different expense categories that transactions might fall under. And something good to browse is the IRS. And I know as soon as I say that, someone's going to give me, oh, I don't want to go to the IRS website. But the IRS website really has some good information that you're going to need to have at your fingertips, including different transaction and expense categories. So I'll link that down below. It's a good place just for you to go and familiarize yourself with all the different types of categories that a transaction could fall into. For instance, if you were talking about a landscaping business, they're going to have expenses like gas. That could be categorized under job supplies. Or maybe they have to take their weed eater to get fixed. It broke. Then they're going to have repairs and maintenance. And those transactions you're going to categorize as their bookkeeper. You're also going to want to familiarize yourself with different reports. There are reports that bookkeepers run for businesses to give them a good financial picture of what's going on in their business. And some of these reports are things like their profit and loss statement and their balance statement. You want to go through these things and just kind of understand what they are. I'll try to link a good video down below to teach you some of the basics of those reports. Something else really important, especially with those transactions and those categories that expenses could fall into, is called the chart of accounts. This is going to give your bookkeeping system an organization. A chart of accounts can be customized for a business in order for their transactions and for their expenses to be portrayed in a way that the business owner can find really valuable and useful. Accounts payable. Accounts payable are the bills that a business is going to have to pay. They are the payable accounts. You are going to have to pay something, a bill, to another vendor. So this word vendor and customer, those are important. So a customer is someone that pays you and a vendor is someone you pay. So let's say that you're working for a small lawyer's office and they rent an office space. They're going to have a rent bill to a vendor. And so that vendor could be a specific person that owns the building, and the accounts payable would include that vendor for you as their bookkeeper to pay their accounts payable. There are some bookkeepers that don't do bills and don't do accounts payable and have the owner of the business do that themselves. Now, on the other side of that is accounts receivable. Accounts receivable are where your customers would come in, because this money is what you are receiving as the owner of a business. So when a customer buys something from you, that is going to go into the accounts receivable that they have paid you. Other things that you need to understand about a bookkeeper is that bookkeepers are not only going to deal with bills, but they're going to deal with marketing, sales, and transactions. They are going to potentially create classes of transactions so that a business owner could look at a specific group of transactions and know that a project or let's say you're doing property management, maybe a specific housing building or housing unit, what kind of money was flowing in and out of that specific portion of the business as compared to maybe another housing unit, to see which housing unit is performing better. So classes of transactions are a way to categorize transactions, not just by IRS code, but instead within a business to see how profitable different portions of a business might be. You also may deal with invoices and creating invoices and sending invoices to customers in order for customers then to pay the business for their service. I will make a note here that receipt management is truly not something that bookkeepers do often anymore. The old way of bookkeeping, of having tons of shoeboxes of receipts, is just not really the way anymore. You do have a couple of old school business owners that still do everything by paper and pen. But receipt management has really cut back in the last several years, especially with technology. Speaking of technology, QuickBooks and Xero, which I mentioned earlier, are two really big online platforms for bookkeepers. Those are ones that you're probably going to want to become comfortable with. So in the end, what is a bookkeeper really for? It's honestly to make things easier for the business owner and to make things easier when tax time comes around. You want your clients' bookkeeping to be clear and concise and effective so that they are set up when they go to do their taxes at the end of the year. You can send all of the information and reports nicely to their CPA so that the business owner doesn't have to worry about a thing because you've been taking care of it for them. Bottom line is that every business needs a bookkeeper, so you could be theirs. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you need others like this, please leave me a comment or hit like. Send me a message and tell me what you think I should make a video on next. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye, you guys.